All right, we are live.
Yes,
Nice.
sir.
All right, so this is your host, Demetris Higashikata. This is my friend,
Lolin. What's up?
and today we're going to be discussing the topic of colorism. Um, so I know for members of the Black community, it can be a pretty tough topic to discuss, but I think it would benefit people to hear it from a Gen Z's point of view.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that. Especially
For
since we
sure.
don't really.
Because usually when people hear about colorism, it's always like rah rah rah, like they get up in their feels. That's what I mean.
Well,
What's
it's
up,
not
Bronze Bird?
kind of. It's not just that. It's just no one bothered to ask us either. So,
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so yeah, as a Gen Zer, people like tell us to like shut up and stuff, but we see everything pretty much. So yeah, it can benefit some people. I think it would help a lot of people.
to at least hear it from the goat's mouth a little bit,
Yeah,
just a little bit. I mean, we don't
instead of
necessarily.
lying on us, telling us
Right.
how we think.
We don't necessarily speak for every Gen Zer because, like everybody else
Exactly.
in every
I know
generation.
that, but I want to grow the channel, you know,
Hmm.
so that we can get more Gen Z folk in here and have a full blown panel.
Bet I'm here for it.
So that's my boy Bronze Bird. What's up, Bronze Bird? Um, so yeah, uh, typically what happens with Gen Zers and colorism is it's a touchy topic for us, but we recognize that it's important to discuss touchy topics because if you don't discuss them, then they'll never get resolved, pretty much.
Of
Um,
course. Definitely not.
so, what comes to mind when you think of colorism, Lolan?
Uh, it's just you feel some kind of way about people just because how they look. Kind of like similar to racism, except it's more directed to specific shades of people, I would say, for the most part. What about you?
Uh, with me, the first thing that comes to mind is 50 Shades of Black. Yeah, okay, because here's the thing. When I say 50 Shades of Black, I'm not talking about the movie. I'm talking about actual different shades of black people.
That makes sense. More sense than
Um
what I was thinking because I was like, wait a minute.
but yeah, I think of the different shades of black people and and it was my first time learning about colorism was when you introduced it to me when we were back in high school.
Seriously?
Yeah, because I had never heard of it before.
Dang. Yeah, no. The only reason why I know about colorism is because of my parents and kind of what my mom went through growing up. So, for the most part, I could see why a lot of people have never heard of it, I guess.
Apparently, other Gen Zers have heard of it. I think we were just late
Makes sense.
because we went to a small school, so I think that had something to do with it.
Just a tad. Just a tad. Definitely. But yeah, no. Colorism is something that's been around. It's actually a recent phenomenon with the name as how history goes as a whole, because like colorism, it's been going on as a form in different cultures to symbolize different socioeconomic statuses, but it didn't really have a name until current time periods, which I think was around slavery, strangely enough.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's been a thing that's been going on forever because if you look into like Asian cultures, people with lighter skin were deemed more valued because you get to stay inside and you get to afford the luxury of people doing the heavy lifting for you. And if you had darker skin, that kind of indicated that you were doing hard labor outside all day. So,
Okay.
kind of like a variance in the world, you know?
Yeah. What's up, Jay the Conqueror? He told me on a different stream that he'd be here. Appreciate you being here, bro. So, yeah, that's what comes to mind when I think of colorism. Uh, as you just described, it was pretty much one of those things that didn't have a name until recent times.
Pretty much. Yeah. Didn't
He
it was a
said
thing.
he asked, "Are you a dark skinned woman?"
Why does that matter?
I, I
Why
mean,
does that
are you
matter?
lighter? I've never looked before. Like, are you lighter than me by a
I
little
don't
bit?
care. Like, it's not really something that I've bothered to look at. It's just, I'm here, dude. I don't see as why that would matter in this instance as a whole, I guess.
I would say she's dark skinned, Jay. I would say she's dark skinned. Not that's don't take my word for it, but I would say she's dark skinned. She definitely ain't no light skin though.
Ah, makes sense. You're right. You're right. It does add more
hmm
context. Yeah.
So let's get started, shall we? Let's go ahead and define colorism. So, according to Merriam-Webster, colorism is prejudice or discrimination, especially within a racial or ethnic group, favoring people with lighter skin over those with darker skin. So, yeah, this had a lot of history to it, apparently, as Lowland was describing with the slaves, and even a little bit before then, right?
Yeah, well, it's been around forever. It's just we've never really had a name for it. That it's just there. The name didn't come about until later when we decided to name it something because naming things makes it easier to identify what's going on in the world around us.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. So, yeah, as it evolved over the years, well, it didn't really evolve, but it just manifested itself in different ways. With the slaves, you had the preferential treatment, right?
Yeah,
In the
yeah, definitely.
Reconstruction era, you had preferential treatment from both white men and black men. Although typically in those days, men were just happy to have a wife.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah,
think about what happened to the unproductive people.
yeah. I prefer not
Died
to think
alone.
about that, but yeah, you're not wrong. Definitely something that happened did was something that they did focus on, but it was kind of a dual-edged sword because people who were lighter skin tones were also demonized at the same time. So it's
They had
just
pretty privilege too.
that is, and it's really fascinating just to see how between the lighter skin and darker skin community, how everything would interact with one another in such a kind of in a combative, kind of not combative way. I guess best way for me to put it.
I can see that. I can definitely see that. So, yeah. So, after the Reconstruction era, it was still preferential treatment, but it was like sort of up in your face with it because now I'm talking about the time when TV came into play and then black people got on TV. Uh,
Yeah.
Dark skinned women were more or less demonized, and I can be fair about that. Um,
Mhm.
and light skinned women were like seen as prettier. That's what that's what these specific channels are talking about. Um, when they're talking about colorism, they typically refer to that time period. And all that's happening right now is we're dealing with the consequences of that.
Yeah,
Um,
massively.
so as more and more Black people start to get on TV and show up to represent their race, there was a sense of hope among the people. But what was often not talked about was the dynamic between dark skinned women and light skinned women. I mean,
True.
even Sweet Melody Speaks, she was talking about how she had a bad experience with dark skinned women when she was younger. Um,
Mhm.
I think it was something about them being jealous of her, and so they like tried to basically uh, put something in her hair to cause her to lose her hair.
Wow. That's not okay.
So it makes sense why she feels the way she feels. Um, so that's typically people who don't really how should I say this? Typically people who don't really understand or are really unaware of the effects of colorism on Black culture. Uh, I should say this: American Black culture.
Mm.
They typically had sometimes bad experiences, and other times their experiences was so good that they don't even register it as a problem. Now, I want to register it as a problem, but it's not an excuse. If you know
Sure.
what I mean. It's not going to it not like it was back then. It's not going to hold a ceiling over your head. Not necessarily, because if that were the case, then in certain professions, uh,
Mhm.
many shades of people wouldn't be there. Then it really would be a problem.
That's true.
So
And
I see it as just a thing that we deal with that can be solved, but you can't necessarily talk to the older generation about it. If you were to try to fix it, you would have to um, condition the young folks uh, not really to register it,
Mhm. I would have to agree
which
with
is
that.
already happening. Because I mean, I didn't know about colorism until you told me about it.
That still makes me laugh. But yeah, no, everybody learns what they need to learn, I guess, whenever the time comes where the problem arises. You know what I mean? I mean it in a sense that I feel that sometimes with people when they're finally introduced into a problem, this they don't know what to do with it at first, and it takes a minute for them to come into their own about their own opinions or their own issues towards said problem or what they find any differences. So it's perfectly fine
What's that
that
face, Jay? Explain. But continue.
you learned it when you learned it. It's better late than never, in my personal opinion. But with that, colorism is, I feel so like I really want to speak about it because not my own personal story with it, but just how I see kind of an underlying hatred we all have for one another in the African American community. That is just, I would like to say, very unnatural for a group of people to have towards one another.
Uh, oh,
So,
thank you, Jay, thank you. Because I was just about to say something like that.
Mhm.
because I did pose a solution, but I was aware that it wasn't a end all be all solution. So he says, I'm not sure it's possible to fully conquer it in a predominantly white country. It would take a lot of work and consistency over decades, I feel. Yeah, yeah, that's
Mm.
exactly what I was
Yeah.
saying. And I was on um, another channel, and you know, the stuff like what Senji complains about with black men and all that stuff. Um, I was saying Gen Z is the start of that change, but even if we kicked it into like Maxa Overdrive, you wouldn't live to see it, and that's not a threat. What? Let me explain. Just as Jay said, it would take decades. Like this is going if we were to kick it into maximum overdrive, this wouldn't get solved. We wouldn't have um these cities that they these women on YouTube say that they want built by black men. We
Mhm.
wouldn't have that for literally decades, maybe even half a century.
Mhm. Because
Cause
it takes time
because
for excellence.
it takes time. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it really does take time. But what I wanted to talk about the aspect of this is because you said there's hate among the different shades of black people within the black caucus or the black community.
Yeah, I don't really see that more with younger generations, except if it's on TikTok and it's somebody saying that they prefer other races of people over black people. And your prerogative is your prerogative. But in the place of doing all that, they end up demeaning black people as a whole in order to make a point how much they like another race of people, which is more racism than colorism, which is not the point. But still, it's a problem amongst all of us because both sides do it. Both males and females wind up doing all of that. It's not
Hmm.
cool, but that's a story for another day. This kind of hatred with one another is more half of us do it, the other half don't do it. And it doesn't help the fact that even the half that doesn't do it really doesn't really do it on purpose necessarily if it does come across a happen or they just ignore it
Yes,
completely.
usually ignorance.
It's usually out of ignorance, and not only that too, the people who are aware of that aren't aware of the fact that they wind up playing into their own stereotype as well.
Yeah,
So it's kind of a dual-edged sword of trying to be one with your own community by being something that you're not at the like, but at the same time you kind of have to fit into a mold to be a part of what the people in our community think you already are.
yeah. I mean, and
So
I've gotten that before, but that's gonna be different topic. I'm probably gonna title it like something about different types of people in the black community. Uh, but it's gonna be like the main five that have the main
mhm,
stereotype, and
mhm.
I'll explain that in a different video. So Jay the Conqueror says, I'd say 30 years at the fastest. Well, I think that's if we get to building
I
like
agree.
right away. And even then, you have to what am I trying to say? You'd have to. I don't want to sound like woke to this. I would say like I'm trying to use another word for like decolonize the mind of black people because some of our people have like this victim mentality problem.
You would have to get us to basically, essentially, to grow up and be more independent in our own thinking instead of holding on to the pain and the trauma that we've had in the past as a group.
Mm-hmm.
So, in order for what you want, are you trying to say that, like,
Exactly,
we
Jay.
need to let go of not forget it and don't not do not mourn it? You still need to mourn it because It still hurts and it still has remnants of it. But we need to work through that trauma and through that pain in order to get somewhere where we all want to be as a
I
whole.
agree. And what Jay said, it brings us to our next point. How colorism manifests today. So, what you usually hear Gen Zers talk about if they do complain about colorism is stuff on like TikTok or like these high school review interviews. Sorry,
Hmm.
where they'll like interview people and they'll purposely ask like what you will call it controversial questions like light skinned women or black skinned women, I mean dark skinned women, and it's really despicable when you think about it. um because they're actually perpetuating a problem.
Definitely.
It's it and Jay, I don't mean to be like this super like woke guy, but they are. You have to admit they are part of the problem. And then these girls, they go because usually guys don't look at stuff like that. It's usually the girls, um, because girls are the ones that showed that stuff to me, and yeah, the a whole bunch of black girls, they'll like view this content and they'll consume it and then they'll obsess about it and then they'll run to TikTok and then they'll be like, "Oh, do you like dark-skinned women? Do you like black women?" They'll say it to uh black guys, they'll say it to Asian guys, they'll say it to white guys, Hispanic guys. It basically preys on their insecurity, and basically that's how you should I say this, that's how you make a insecure um woman go batshit crazy.
Well, it's not just that too. A lot. It's an overcompensation of security in women, quote unquote. So like I would say it's an overcompensation of it all because what we focus on and what makes a woman beautiful, especially towards darker skinned women as a whole, it's not anything necessarily wholesome or pure. So people feel as though that the only way, or at least women in like my own experience and in my friends' experience, will do anything to make ourselves feel as though we're pretty if we're not secure in ourselves and who we want to be. There's an aspect of that. And when you get a ton of young people and when you get a ton of people who've been told that we've been broken down and we've been beaten and we're not going to be anything better than that, that kind of trauma and that kind of self-inflicted mental abuse just travels down generation and generation until somebody says, no, I don't believe any of that. I'm going to go this way. The problem is we can't get people to say, that isn't me, especially since, like how Jay mentioned, that we do need to cut off a lot of media, especially to younger audiences, because they're going to think that that's what beauty is, or that's what I need to be a woman, or to be good enough in the eyes of a man. When in reality, that's not necessarily the most important thing. The most important thing is who you are to yourself. If we're going to take religion out of it, or whatever morality that you put up top first before you, the most important thing is you and how you view yourself, not how others people view yourself. And I feel like colorism, what it does, it makes people focus on what others think of you, along with societal norms and what you think societal norms are, where you can't even see who you are as a person.
Okay, so with that said, um how and why does colorism affect people in the professional world? You already said basically why.
Yeah,
Um because it's like it was like spread across society a little bit, and so it affected how people got their jobs. I hear sometimes women talking about this in the modeling industry or just a regular career job.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Like,
they'll say, "Oh, you're not exactly what we're looking for, but somebody else told you something different."
hmm.
Yeah, stuff like that.
And going into just colorism, going even further to it too, you have people who have to change their whole hairstyle in order to just get a job position. And while they have said position, they have to wear their hair in a certain way in order to keep that position because they will get a pink note for it, which isn't something that I don't think anybody should if ultimately your hair is not causing a massive disturbance in your workplace. And if it is, one, my question is why is everybody looking at you? They need to mind their own business, just in general. And that's pretty much the whole thing
I'll
behind
get
it.
into beauty standards in a moment, Jay. Because I wanted to touch on the other aspects of life first
Mm.
before we actually get into the social aspect of colorism. But don't worry, I'm about to get into it.
But going on to just how it affects socially, if we go look at the past, the first millionaire black person was, I forgot her name, J.C. J.C. Walker? Yes, I believe is her name. J.C. Walker. She created the first hairline for black women and just black hair, and she became the first African American millionaire. But prior to her, believe it or not, there was a black upper class.
Of course.
Of course. But this black upper class tend to came about because these were the descendants of half white, half black people. So they're typically their white fathers haven't really heard a scenario where it was their white mother, but their white fathers would give them the children money as their own children, maybe not as definitely not as much as their white counterparts, siblings, but they still got money to go to college and in some instances were able to go to college and make a name for themselves and build a life. And they would still marry amongst one another and became an elite black social class. They would make their own neighborhoods, they would have their own kind of lives. So when we have an upper class of black people that quote unquote come from old money, that's pretty much where they stem from.
So, do you think that gave him a better chance at a job?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Because if you have money, the world answers to green in general. If you had money, you still have a more level of respect than someone who doesn't. You're able to get more places than someone who that doesn't have money. Not saying that your life was peaches and cream, because well, definitely wasn't for those people either. But they still had a better quality of life than their poorer black counterpart who tend to have darker skin as well, even after slavery and during Jim Crow laws. You still had people who were living somewhat a better life because money gives you more access and power into things. So you have that kind of distinction between people because of who their parents are. Extremely intertwined. Yeah, I completely agree with you, Jay. They're extremely intertwined. So this whole basis of colorism plays a massive role into how everything in life for black people just is. You have a ton of people having arguments with one another just because of what they look like, but their whole financial status, their whole physicality was completely dependent for the most part up until this past century on whether they were half black or fully black, or if somebody in their family was half black or fully black. It's it's sad, but yeah, it was very rare for just a black person to make it up in the world and stay in the US as well. They will wind up going to other countries to keep a name and make a name for themselves. We need a Venn diagram. I felt that.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that.
I felt
But
that.
that's how messed up racism was. It like basically preyed on all this stuff, pretty much. Um, so as it relates to the social life, how does colorism affect people in terms of dating?
I can tell you a story concerning me
Okay,
and that.
story time. Go.
Story time. So I was minding my own business. It was freshman year of high school, doing my own thing, went to breakfast with my mom. We just came out of church. We're just living our best lives, doing us. And we ended up going to this Waffle House, right? Right. This all makes sense in a second. So we go, we're living life, we're having fun, but we had a waiter who was also somebody, he happened to be dark skinned as well. So, out of the three of us, my mom happens to be really dark skinned black. Growing up, she was called pretty black. She wasn't called just plain pretty, but pretty black, kind of like Black Pearl. Wherever she went and somebody would compliment her, it was always about her skin. So when we go into this restaurant, this guy comes in and he starts flirting with me and he's like, "Yeah, I really want to hit you up." And I'm thinking to myself, I'm really not interested into this dude because I'm not really looking to date anybody right now. But he seems like a really nice guy. So I told him, "Hey, I'm not really interested in you. Thank you for approaching me, but I do have a friend of mine that would be interested in dating you because she stated that in her mind, as an African American woman, she likes black men." Okay, I got you, babes. He seems like your type. You like them tall, you like them buffer. He seems like your type. Gotcha. I got you. I was gonna hook him up, do the whole nine, as I do. But he said something that to this day will forever resonate with me. I was like, "Yeah, I have a friend of mine." He goes, "Well, I don't know. How dark is she?" And I'm like, "Excuse me?" He goes, "Yeah. Is he like as dark as your mom? Because if she's as dark as your mom, that's okay, I guess. But if she's like dark, like that black car outside," and he pointed to a black SUV, and I looked at it and I looked back at him, and then he said, "I'll pass if she's that dark." I just kind of stared at him and I was like, "Well, at least you were honest. Never mind." I was like, "Well, we'll see," is basically what I told him. He didn't get a number. But it really does play a role into how people perceive you or well automatically if you're pretty. Now the girl who was my friend, she was in dark skin. She was kind of more towards light skin too, but she is very much pro black. And him and her, because of that fact with him, they would not have mixed. But moving past all of that, I say that all to say is it plays a big role into how somebody perceives you. And this dude was as black as that SUV. There's a problem with how we perceive people, or we just write them off as not being good enough for me, or quote unquote okay to call pretty because of their skin tone. That is a major problem. That shouldn't be. You, when you're dating someone, if you find them attractive, it should not matter how dark they are. You find them attractive. And the fact that I'm telling him the traits of my friend, and prior to all of him saying what he said, he was really liking the vibe that I was telling him what she was like. If he was, if that's just an automatic turn off for him, then why are you dating? You, dude, like, you're asking other people for somebody's number, you're not even willing to give her a chance because she's quote unquote way too dark. You don't even know how her features look on her. You don't know what kind of body she has. You don't know any of that. And homie, my female friend, very pretty, hourglass figure, whole 9 yards. You would, why? You just shot yourself in the foot. I feel like I feel like when people focus way too much on the skin color of some people, you miss out on who somebody is and whether or not they would be good on you when it comes to dating. Color should not be that big of a deal. And if you have issues with somebody with how dark that they are, that really just tells me how many issues you have when you look in the mirror. And it goes to your self confidence and it goes to your own insecurities, not necessarily what's wrong with the other person. It's just what's wrong with you. Why is that such a bad thing? I've
Well,
never
well,
really
here's the
understood
thing,
that.
Lauren. I don't think everyday average people like register it. Well, at least not Gen Zers, not like that.
Definitely not with us.
Unless they unless they go to like an HBCU or something. Definitely not, because
True.
uh, I mean, aside from that one kid in our school who said, hold on, I don't see a difference between this and every other disqualifier people use in dating. Uh,
And that's okay. It's your prerogative, bro. But
uh,
but
he's
my
not wrong. I have a story about that.
he's not wrong. You're definitely
I,
not
I
wrong.
don't think I
It's
told you
stupid
about it, Lola.
sometimes. So just ignore us as a whole sometimes. It's okay. It's okay. Continue.
Um, but yeah, I don't think like regular everyday people think about that because it's so weird to do that because it's like an individual trying to think on a collective level, and most people don't live their life that way, and you can't make them. So,
True.
as I while I understand what you're saying, and I'm not excusing it, um, I'm saying basically find a person who likes you, basically. Find
Yeah.
someone who likes you. I mean, half these ladies out here, they're complaining about men that don't want them. Just find somebody who wants you. It's really, even though yes, dudes have the advantage because we're outnumbered by women. Um,
For now. For now.
what you mean for now?
As long as there's as long as there's no other wars, naturally speaking, when a woman gets pregnant, they're 51% more likely to have a male than they are to have a female. For now, if life
True.
goes accordingly to how life is supposed to go, for now, you guys, there will be more of y'all sooner or later. But for now, there's more of us. Continue.
Okay. I wanted to, even though this is a bit off topic, I wanted to touch on what Jay said. Okay, so there was this. Hold on. They complain about men they don't even want. That's the divested chicks like Cara DTV
Yep.
and Real Talk with Yanni.
Yep. I mean, there's some aspects of it to where you should complain about where men are. If there, it's like, just, dude, what you said was messed up and we should not do that. But I mean, like, if it bugs you that much, and I do this in my own personal life, I just don't look at it. It's there. I know it's there. But like, if I give it no entertainment and I don't see it in my day to day life, being aware of it in my day to day life, there's no point of me focusing on it.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and touch on what Jay said here, and then I'll return back to the topic with a relating story to witnessing something colorist. Um, so there's this I told Bronze Bird about this. So there was this chick in college, and I met her at the laundromat, basically, and I was interacting with her. You know, it was going good. It was going smooth. All of that, and I told her, okay, we get along well. Let's meet up for dinner later. So I go about my day, the use, watch TV and all that, and then comes dinner time. So I show up. She shows up a little bit later, and this chick, the first thing out of her mouth, among what's my um what's my experience like here at Prairie View, she says, "What's your birth sign?" And I was like, "Okay, this is cool. I'm gonna go ahead and tell her." So I told her, and then she told me hers, and then I told her my experience at Prairie View, how much I like it here, and everything, how homey it feels. And then she goes right back to the zodiac signs. She was like, "Oh, you a Libra, so you don't like this, huh?" And then she started telling me things about herself, and then she started trying to quiz me about her sign. And I wanted by that time I wanted to leave. I just wanted to fucking leave, bruh. I was like, no, get me away from these zodiac chicks. They warned me about them too, but I never thought I was gonna come into contact with a zodiac chick ever. Ah,
Dude, they're everywhere. You
yeah,
didn't you
so I
didn't you didn't know that?
have to look out for it. But anyways, colorism story. When when I was at Prairie View, our dorm, the dude dorm that I was in, building 40, we had a thing going on where we would check each other when we didn't see when we saw the other person not doing what they were supposed to do, or being unnecessarily like controversial, or just doing a lot in general. And this one dude, we heard him yell light skin bitches over dark skin bitches all the way, and we told him to shut up. And he was like, "Don't tell me to shut up. Why are you telling me to shut up?" And we were trying to explain it to him, like, "Listen, the women here outnumber the men." And I remember you saying that you wanted to get some girls here. You doing that will paint you as a red flag, and I promise you will only get like one or two girls while you here, because most of us are dark skinned, and most of them, I promise you, they have some experience with colorism, and doing that will trigger that in them. And they're on top of that, they're trying to build their confidence.
Not only that, if he does get a girl, it's gonna be one that he's not gonna like at all. Not just because about how she looks, but probably by how she acts too. Except if he's into toxic stuff. Then he's golden. He's golden. If that's what he likes.
Jay the Conqueror. You're gonna love dark skinned women, and you're gonna love them, whether you like it or not.
No, you shouldn't be forced into it. Like, Betty, hey, you got a decision to make. Depends on what's more important to you, a relationship or staying single. Staying
Oh,
single is more
I was
important to you?
thinking somebody put a gun to his head and
I wasn't
say,
thinking that. See, you and I go in different places. That right there, I was not thinking that. Desperate times calls for desperate measures, is what I was thinking.
yeah, so you're gonna love this Lupita. You know who Lupita
Yes,
Nyong'o
that's
is?
what she is. Really, dude? I mean, hey, look, it is what it is. Not really, though. You shouldn't be forced into liking something that you don't like, but
I
since
I agree, but like what Jay said, it's hard to tell if somebody just likes what they like, or if there's a serious issue behind it.
exactly.
And sometimes it is, sometimes it ain't. I can tell you firsthand, for the people in the audience, uh, me, Lolan and I, we be cracking up about the stuff that goes on in the manosphere and the sisterhood. We
Bruh,
be
it's
cracking up.
disgusting.
And here's why. Because all they're doing, some of these people are doing, are showing themselves as red flags.
Yep. And they don't even know
Yanni, big red flag. What's up, Anti?
a,
Oh, oh. Uh,
a featureism.
you don't know what futurism is?
Yeah, it took me a second because my dyslexia. I was really reading that as something else, and I was like, "What? Nah, you're good." It's a thing, kind of like how colorism is a thing. Not dismissing any one of those two things, but like, but you like what you like, and I feel like that goes down personal autonomy and choice. But like I said, with how the media is it really because you don't like it, or is it because you've been surrounded by things that show you shouldn't like it? I think when we go to things more towards featureism, it's more of your personal choice, but it's more like a gray area in
Hmm.
life.
I'm thinking about doing something. I'm thinking about opening up a Google tab and just typing in black women.
What? Oh, fair.
Oh, Jay the Conqueror says on the men's side or the women's side. Honestly, both.
Both.
Sometimes,
Definitely both.
sometimes, sometimes the men be tripping too. In my personal opinion, sometimes the men be tripping, but that's just me.
Sometimes I
But
think
definitely more so the women's side, especially after what Sunji did. That was some raccoon. That was some raccoon shit, man.
I'm not touching that.
Oh, he said I meant the you're told this beautiful part on the men's side or the women's side. Still
Both.
both. Yeah,
Definitely
still
both.
both.
Both. Definitely both. Like, look, you don't know how many times. Because, okay, before I went to the same school as D, I went to a predominantly white and Asian school. So it was interesting to say the least. Those kids were something else. And their standards of beauty or what's beautiful is leaps and bounds different than what we as Black people deem as beautiful, just in our own little small societies. Just when I mean small societies, I mean what you find in high school or in school. But
I
yeah,
agree, Jay.
even
I
with the
agree. Of course, it's
yeah,
more so on the women. They're the beautiful ones.
yeah, but with
But
that,
go
media
ahead.
even changed. When I say that because the media that I was consuming in the predominantly white and Asian area is completely different than what you find in the black predominant area. So like when I'm at school or when I was at in that particular school, they would get certain channels that down here where we are now, where we both were in high school, um, channels show different kinds of media, show different types of shows, show different types of commercials geared more to African Americans than what they would do when I was in the predominantly white and Asian places. You would find more television or more things or more beauty things dedicated to whiter and lighter skin tones because that is a part of Asian beauty standards, or you would find something that was geared more to white people beauty standards.
I just noticed it's storming outside. Don't be surprised if the stream gets cut off. Um, so yeah, Jay the Conqueror, you're right. But you have to understand that that's not what the body positivity movement originally was. It was originally about people understanding themselves. Because once they understand themselves, their bodies, then they work at their bodies to basically sculpt it into something that they want to be. Now, this new wave of it, I don't know what they own. I don't know what they on. You saw what happened with Lizzo, Jay. You saw what happened with Lizzo. She basically had a breakdown.
Yeah, because she wanted to become something that people don't want her to become.
But going back to the topic, um, that was that was my real personal experience with colorism. Uh, I mean, overall, what you're gonna take from this is it's we just see it as a thing that's people tend to deal with, and um, that's really it. Because average everyday people, they don't think like this. They just don't think like this.
They don't.
I'm gonna copy and paste the StreamYard link in case one of y'all want to come up here. But go ahead, Lauren. I mean, Lolan.
We don't, as a whole, think like this because a lot of people don't want to because it makes them uncomfortable. And even remember in high school, we had that one English teacher that would tell us that you need to think like this, even with things that you think are mundane, because there's probably something deeper in there that you might
True,
miss, that you might wind up supporting, that you don't really want to support. And it will be completely different than what you know as your narrative, what you need to do in your life. She would always reiterate that to us, whether it was English, whether it was theology, or whether it was history. She would just bang all of that into our heads all the time. So every little thing,
definitely.
the only reason why we think like this is because she taught us to think like this and we can't turn it off. I mean that literally. Literally can't turn it off. So everything in life winds up being deeper than what people think. I am just me as a person. It's we kind of just think it's something that's there. It's something that is a deal, not as big as what it used to be, but still pretty big amongst us as Black people. Am I wrong in saying that, D?
I think. Hmm, I think it it can be in like certain hotspots across the U.S., but not overall like it used to be. Like no, um, no. We went to an Episcopal school.
Yeah, it was interesting considering the student body was Black Baptist.
Yeah, by the time we got to high school, it was like majority black, and I'd been going there since kindergarten.
Yeah,
When I was there in kindergarten, it was mostly white. Then I got to middle school, then it started getting a little more black. Then me and you got to high school, and it was pretty much 80% black.
pretty much. Like with the occasional sprinkle of that one Asian kid and that one white kid here and there. Yeah.
You're gonna Google it, Episcopalian schools? Yeah, they here.
They exist. They exist.
Um, they're usually like private schools though.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. I feel like there's an aspect of this I didn't touch on yet.
Which is
Oh yeah, the men's side.
dang.
That's what I didn't
Kind of
touch on yet.
important. But then again, I didn't think of that either. Go on.
Well, I mean, cause even though yeah, men are less likely to what did Jay say? The men are less likely to um change themselves to fit a certain mold. How that affects men? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm getting into. Um, See, because as black men, the dark skinned ones are seen as more masculine, viewed by typically the ignorant woman. Um, and that's how it used to be as well. Okay, the storm outside is worrying me. The stream actually might cut off, so don't be surprised. Um, and that manifests in different ways in our interactions intra-racially, like between different races. Uh, Light-skinned dudes. I mean, even Kwame Brown was talking about how they view light-skinned dudes as soft.
Really
Yes, they used to. Yes, they
interesting.
were saying how they used to like torture light-skinned dudes.
Okay, that's messed up.
How they used to just constantly pick at them and pick at them and pick at them.
Yikes.
So yes, they see the light skinned dudes typically as more dainty.
Okay.
I've peeped
Ah,
how women respond to Steph Curry versus LeBron James. One gets one way more thirsty comments than deals. Yeah, yeah, you're right about that for sure.
hmm.
I mean, I ain't even in the basketball, and I know about that.
That makes sense because in the black and like and with women's side too, darker skinned women are seen more manly than, especially the darker that they are. They're seen as more stronger and more independent, even if they're not. That makes sense. I never really thought that it would correlate over to the male side as well, but honestly, I should have thought of that.
I mean, even Chrissy talked about it.
True.
Chrissy herself, the one that's all about dark skinned women, she talked about it herself.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, man. So light skinned women are seen as more feminine, and so are lighter skinned men. Yeah, apparently, according to according to people like Kwame. I
Honestly,
mean,
it.
apparently, there's the whole light skinned joke, light skinned dude joke.
Hmm,
When light skinned dudes they continuously take L's, all that stuff. I mean, it
hmm,
manifests in different ways, little micro stuff.
hmm. Little microaggressions. Yeah.
I guess you could call it, yeah. Um, I blame Drake. Jiggy, yeah, because Drake was the one who did the music video of him having his heart broken, and he fell against the wall and grabbed his hot chest and slid down slowly.
Don't completely blame him either. It could.
No, 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 no. Because when we were growing up, Drake was big, big.
Yeah, you're right. Never mind. Homie kind of just took the
I
problem
remember when
and
we
made
were
it.
in middle school in the song, we discovered the song "Pop That."
Yeah.
That dude, compared to the other dudes in the music video, Drake's whole demeanor was weird. But I don't think it was because he's light skinned. I think he just perpetuated the joke.
Mm, makes sense. Makes sense. He. I guess I wonder, is it because why lighter skinned people are seen more as dainty or breakable because of the fact that that's how black people would have think that they are like during slavery times. I wonder if that's might be a root cause to it as well. This
Well, I
is me
mean, even
speculating.
during
I
the slave times, the people out in the field, they kind of looked down on the people in the house because they were like, "Ah, you couldn't survive a day out here."
There's that too. There's that too. But along
So
with
maybe it
that,
has something to do with that.
not only that, interestingly enough, my mother, being the woman that she is, introduced me to a book. I forgot the name of it, where it was written by a slave master that said, if you want to keep your power when it's dealing with slaves, keep the ones that are lighter skinned in the house while the other ones who aren't lighter skinned outside, so they can come up, they themselves will come up with a method to hate one another so they don't attack you. Was basically the synopsis of that entire book. He basically wrote the book as to how to keep your slaves in line. I forgot his name, but it was a big thing back in the day. My brain is fried.
Yeah, yeah, Jay, it is. It is. That's what I was saying earlier about what Senji and Yanni complain about, and Tanya complain about. Even if we do build the communities, we still have to like deal with this toxic mindset that's toxic to us
Hmm.
ourselves. But
It's like
that's yeah, yeah. It's a
it's
whole
like
thing.
we hate what we see in the mirror as well. Especially like those who, the darker you are. A good book that I really resonated with going on. This is not really colorism or racism. I just had a tutor in my life who, she was a white lady, and we read the book The Bluest Eye. And that book is basically the descent into madness of this 12-year-old girl that Toni Morrison writes as someone who is pretty. The problem is she has darker skin. And you basically see her try to be the beauty standard of that time period, which was
That's
a
what we forgot. Beauty standard.
I which was, I forgot her name. She was an entertainer for the longest. She was this little white girl with blonde hair, blue eyes. Everybody wanted to be her, and they would play infomercials for her on Cartoon Network when we were kids. Freaking forget these things. But yeah, no, that book in and of itself, all it talks about was colorism. But when I told my tutor that I resonated with that, she's like, every little girl feels that way. And I just sat there like, you don't get the undertones, do you? That's okay.
She's
That's okay. It's okay.
um so yeah, let's go ahead and touch on the beauty standard real quick. So oftentimes in these conversations, you'll hear the women come talk about how they're not the beauty standard uh in America,
Yeah.
and then they're not shown by the media, and they're not shown by black men that they're pretty. Um, which I don't know, that can be a little bit controversial because I'm not a woman, so I can't really speak
Okay.
for women because
What do you
I
mean?
know on a base level women want to be desired.
Yeah, definitely. We take women in general, just this is just how we think, all of us across the board, no matter how quote unquote masculine we may act, all of us to an extent want to feel pretty at one point in our lives and want to be seen as someone who is wanted.
You know, Yanni, she did the a video from O Steph Co reviewing her video, and basically Stephanie, she was saying how, oh, should I just go ahead and bring up a picture of this chick? I don't know. Um
You probably should just bring up a picture because I don't know what you're talking about.
I I'll go ahead and do it.
We know this. I do faces, no names. That's a good point too. They're arguably overrepresented. True. And it also depends on what kind of
I
media that
didn't
you're
think you'd
digesting
agree with
as
that. I
well
thought you'd
for
fight.
your day to day life.
I honestly thought you'd
No,
fight that
I'm
point.
not going to fight, but it also depends on what you fill your life. It depends on what you fill your life with. Like I said, just going around the country, you'll find different commercials and different um, medias to certain racial groups and to certain ethnicities. You'll find a commercial geared to white people that you will never find geared to black people. I feel like when people say they want to be represented, they want to be represented in spaces where no one knows anyone like them, but no one knows anyone like them, but they're willing to at least see them as somebody that does exist in their day-to-day world, even if you would never interact with them.
Can you see this?
Ah, yes, I remember. Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay, yeah, you can see this. Okay, so this chick, she did a video about basically how she'll never have kids because men don't see her as pretty. And I think that
Hmm.
my whole thing is where's she looking? Where is she looking for her men at? Because I know actually plenty of dudes who would go for a chick like this. Plenty. Um, I don't know. To me, she's kind of cute. She kind of cute. I think she has a self confidence issue, though. Well, not self confidence, but what does Kevin call it? Internal dialogue issue.
Hmm. Well, if you think about it too, if you tell people that their physicality is, it's okay for that to be a deal breaker with you, which it is. If you don't like what you like, that's perfectly fine. You're going to run into the issue that somebody's going to have to quote unquote compromise their standards in order to
Yeah, she
find
got the
what
whole nerdy
by
black
how
chick look. I like it. Anyways,
she's not a traditional beauty, but she is very pretty.
yeah,
And
she's pretty.
I think that's what she's focusing on too. I haven't seen the video, so I wouldn't know.
Well, she even started dating out, and her results didn't change. And that's basically Yanni was trying to twist it. It's like, oh, black men don't want you, just divest. And she started dating out, and her results didn't change. And so she had this whole video talking about how men don't see her as pretty. And she in a video, I can't remember which one, she was stating how her middle school experience was with men calling her names like tar baby and stuff like that.
Oh wow.
And I was like, wow,
For what?
that's real messed up.
Like, why are you calling her? Some things I'll never understand. That being one of them, I don't understand.
In
Sure.
I don't think it has anything to do with her skin. I think it's the vibe she gives off. I
Could be.
really do, because in the video she was talking about how she everywhere she goes she's like kind of loud.
Mm-hmm.
It's like very look at me ish.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe it is a self confidence issue. Maybe she's really insecure. Because I know
Um,
plenty of dudes who would date her. I really do.
or maybe it's the fact that she might just be looking, like you said, in the wrong place. But she
She
might as
did go to the
well.
bar. Uh, now.
Dang, that star is really going.
Yeah, you can hear it.
Yup, it's like it really wants to take us out.
Continue.
But no, I haven't watched any of her videos at all. But then again, if I've ever watched it, I don't know exactly what kind of vibe I would have gotten off of her. But it might be the area that she's living in too.
She wants Pookie and Ray. I don't know. That's not the vibe that I got because she was dating like professors and stuff, and like real. Well, actually, hold on now. She did date like poor guys before the professor. Hold on now. That like didn't do anything with their lives. Hold on now. You might be onto something, Jay. You might be onto something.
Who's Pookie and Ray Ray?
You don't know what a Pookie and Ray Ray is?
Not right now, I don't. My brain is fried.
Dudes who don't do anything with their lives.
Oh, shoot.
Bums, basically.
She might want that too. She also might want to, as well, the guy, only people that she's ever encountered too that strike an interest in her are bums.
Well, bums will mess with pretty much anything, so that's not really impressive. Um, although some of them do have standards, yeah. But maybe this has something to do. And you're a young woman, so maybe you can expand upon this. Maybe she's really it's done such a number on her confidence because she hasn't been shown that she's pretty by the men around her.
Not only that too, it could be not necessarily.
Oh, that's what Ray
Okay.
Ray is. Okay, I didn't know. I knew Pookie part, but I didn't know the Ray Ray part. Anyways, continue.
Personally, if it might just be the fact people go, and this is just across the board, people go to where they feel loved. Whether or not it's the right place for them to be, if they feel as though that they will be loved by that group of people, they will go. If she feels to herself that the only group of men, because this is what women want as well, the only man that would ever truly love her and quote unquote in her mind take care of her are the ones with the lowest possible standards on the face of the planet, she will go. And I wonder too if she just needs to spend time with her and figure herself out.
Well, that's what she's doing.
Oh, that's what
She
she's
don't.
doing?
She doesn't.
Okay.
She doesn't really have much of a choice either.
Then, I mean,
Because the
as
men
well.
around her aren't finding her attractive. See, this is the dilemma part. Because Yanni also brought up self work, but I felt like she was minimizing her experience because
Hmm.
this woman has been working on herself for a while. And so it's kind of like if you were to give her that legitimate advice, it would be like trapping herself in a perpetual state of self work to where she doesn't feel confident in herself enough to really go put herself in front of anyone, really.
True. And look, Jay isn't wrong. Weight does play a role on physical attractiveness as well, but it's a double-edged sword as well. Sometimes if you're like me, even if I lose my weight, I'm just going to be a heavier set woman. I know this. Sometimes as well too, weight isn't necessarily everything. It's being healthy at a healthy size that isn't too big. So we did the math with one of my physical trainers. Turns out that that when they weighed me, that just my bones and my muscles, I weigh about 150 with just my bones and my muscles.
That's healthy for your height.
That's healthy for my height, but I have really really thick bones. Don't know why God made me that way, but it is where I come. That's just what
If
happens.
that's what the physical trainers say, then I guess so.
That's
Um,
but it does play a role into how people perceive you as a person too.
Um,
Hmm.
so hold on, let's take another look at this chick. Let's take another look at this chick, cause that might also be a. Hold on. Yeah, let's take a look at this chick. Another look at her. Mmm.
Faces mean nothing. You have to see her stand up completely. And even if you do see her stand up
Mm,
completely, you don't know her tone and definition, except if
mm.
she's wearing shorts.
Hold on now.
Because I have people in my family with full
She,
faces and not at
she,
all thick.
she is. She ain't thick like that. Jay, you see what I see?
I'm not a dude, so I
Jay,
can't.
do you see what I see? Is that potential? Because that's what Yanni, me, and another person were saying. S- s- She has a lot of potential. Oh, you need to see another vid? Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Come on. Playlists.
Wow. No idea what just happened. Excuse us for the technical difficulties. Okay. So anyway, I don't know what other video is going to show you, but concerning weight, even without colorism, does make a big effect on how people perceive you. There's even been studies shown that people who look like they're overweight look as though that they're lazy or just less capable of doing a job, even if everything around them shows otherwise. Weight is a big problem and a sense of how people perceive it and how what people perceive as overweight isn't necessarily overweight. It genuinely depends on that person and what their build is. Now, for everybody, a certain weight is just flat out overweight, but for
Hello?
certain builds, not so much. Hey,
Okay.
just
All
varies from person to
right.
person.
So I'm gonna go ahead. think the hello? I mean, Lullen?
Hello, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, there,
Bro, you
there
are cutting
we
out.
go. But Jay, I don't know. Yeah, I can hear you. Can the audience?
I'm still here. I have no idea what's happening on his end. I think the storm is hitting him on his side of town much harder than it's hitting on me on mine. Dude, maybe. I don't know. Doubt it though. Nah, not really. But hey, that's his life, you know? I came literally out of nowhere. So, yo.
Hello? Lullen?
Hello.
There you
Yes.
go. So yeah, I'm gonna
What's
go.
up?
He said he the sisterhood probably got
Sounds like they're still attacking. No, I'm just kidding.
but yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream because this is ridiculous. All right,
Okay. Bye, y'all.
bye, Lolan. I'll call you
Bye.
after this.
Okay, bye.